It's George Tyndall, and I'm back again. And I'm going to discuss the Barrenger crater. Okay. Now, I want people to, so people don't get upset and everything. I'm going to ask people to look at what I'm doing from a what if perspective. I don't want people to think that I'm right, but I don't want people to think that I'm wrong. I want them to think, what if? Okay? So if what I'm saying, what if I'm saying is correct? Okay? All right. Now, the speed of the meteor that hit the Barringer crater has been debated. 45,000 miles an hour, 29,000 miles an hour. And that goes along with a lot of the meteors and rocks and debris and stuff that I have found. Now, the piece that was found in the Barringer crater, the big chunk of metal, could be a core. And what I mean by a core is the Earth has a core. Okay, so why couldn't meteors have a solid metal core and a rocky outside layer? Okay? Now, let's think about that. Now, what if some of the asteroids out there are composed with a metal core in them, and some of the meteoroids and some of the meteors? This is just something to think about, okay? Okay. If you look inside the crater, at the rim and the surrounding area, you really see no rocks in the crater whatsoever. Okay. On the rim, there are rocks, okay? The further away you get, I see less rocks and no rock formations. No big tall rock formations. Now, this should have given some people a clue, but because they're not in the area that I'm in and looking at stuff the way I'm looking at it, you don't see the picture. Okay, now going by my findings, this was a slow-moving meteor. And I know that the crater is big, okay? But it was a slow-moving one. And I am going to get to how I came to that conclusion, okay? And I also believe it had a metal core, which is the big piece that people found. Okay. Upon impact, it broke up. Now, regardless the speed, in the crater bottom, if I'm correct, there will be rock fragments that are buried, and they could be buried pretty deep. How deep? Depends on the speed. Okay. All the rocks around the rim that are spread out a ways are what's left of the meteor. But I'll get into explaining why this is overlooked. And that's if it's a meteor with a metal core and rock on the outside of it. And a lot of this has to do with it's overlooked because of this magnetism thing that everybody's got going on. Got to be magnetic. It's got to be magnetic. It's got to be magnetic. It doesn't have to be magnetic from what I'm finding out, and I will show you why. If you are trained to look for a metal fragment, okay? If you're trained to look for metal, then you're not going to find rock fragments like this, which can be magnetic, weak magnetic, or non-magnetic. Okay, now meteoroids, asteroids, and meteors composition does vary in percentage of elements. Okay, they're not all the same. Now, I have a little teeny magnet here. Okay, I have a little teeny magnet here because some rocks are magnetically weak. And not all meteors or pieces of a meteor, especially a huge, large one, are going to be found by going by the metal. We're looking for metal. If we don't find metal, then it isn't a meteor. And that's not true. And I will show you why. Okay. Now this is a regular rock. This right here is supposed to be a regular rock of what it looks like in this area. Okay. Now I got the small magnet. We'll put the small magnet on there. Okay? The magnet sticks. It's magnetic. If I use a bigger one on some of them, like this one right here, okay? If I use a bigger magnet, okay, it's got the pull. But if I let go of the magnet, it slides off. If I put this little magnet on there, it doesn't slide off. The magnetism isn't strong enough to hold a magnet. And it has to, and it goes back to a lot of them. Now, we're going to go to the smaller one. Okay, these two pieces right here, I know that they're non-magnetic. Okay. But the shapes, the breaks, the fractures and everything, this isn't a solid rock. This is a fragment from a bigger rock. And the same with this one. Okay? And this stuff, it's not normal. It's got different colors in it. This one's got pink in it. Okay, now, you can tell the difference. This should be a normal rock from this area, what it looks like. This isn't. And neither is this. But if you look at the colors around the Barrenger crater, you look at the area it landed in, if in fact what I'm saying, and I'm saying if in fact what I'm saying is true, then you will go right past these because they look like a rock. It looks like the regular earth rocks. And it's the point I'm trying to get across. And if it looks like a regular earth rock and a magnet doesn't stick to it, okay, it's not a meteorite. That's the way people learn. That's the way people are taught. But is it true? Okay. This is another one that I found. Okay. Here's the little teeny magnet. We'll put the little magnet on there. But even this can be weak. If you shake it, the magnet moves. So it means its magnetism is weak. And this is the point that I'm trying to get across to everybody. Some can be non-magnetic, some can be weak, some can be stronger magnetically, and then some can be really strong. But it's just like this. This is a weird, funky looking fragment of a rock. It used to be a whole rock. Okay, you take the little magnet, you put it on there. Okay? But when I move it, it slides. Okay? That tells me that this is magnetically weak. And that's just the point I'm trying to get across to everybody. Now, there's another one here that I found. And it's like this. Okay? Now, how do I know this is a fragment from another rock? Okay. This got hot. This part got really hot. Okay? It's melted. It's smooth. Okay? And you can see it under the light. It's melted and smooth. But when you turn it over, it looks like that. Okay, now, why doesn't this side look like this side or this side look like this side? It's because after this came through, it broke off. That's why this looks like regular rock under here. But this is all melted. Now, we'll take the little magnet. We'll put the little magnet on there. Okay? It falls off because it's magnetically weak. See how it slides? The magnet's stuck there, but it comes off. This is really magnetically weak. It's really weak, but it looks like there's rust in here. Okay, to have that much rust, inside a rock, there is a lot of metal, whether people want to believe it or not. Now, here's another one I took from a bigger sample. I found a huge rock, and I took a sample of it, okay? Now, what this is, I do not know. But whatever it is, it's green, but it does have metal in it. Now, the metal seems to be here at the bottom, okay? So we'll put the little magnet on there. Okay, you see the magnet stick to it. Okay, now let's go up to the green part, and we'll put the magnet. Why does the magnet stick to the green part? I can see metal, okay? I can see metal. This is metal at the bottom part. But why is the magnet sticking to the green? Okay. Now, this is what I'm dealing with, okay? This is what I'm dealing with and what I'm going through. And you look at the... Okay, you see. Okay, why are none of these rocks the same? Why are none of them the same? If I found them in the same area, most of them should be the same. Most of them should be like this. But they're not. Okay. Now I gotta bring in the big tamale. Now, it's really important that people listen, okay? And I know that they're going to think that I'm stupid, I'm crazy, I'm dumb, and everything, and I understand that. But there's a reason behind what I'm saying. If I find something and it can help, then I'm going to share it, okay? I know there's something that isn't right here. But anyways, we're going to go to this. Okay. This is a fragment off a bigger rock. It came off a pretty big, gigantic rock. You can tell by looking at this. Okay? And this has to do with collision. This was a collision in space. This collided in space. This broke off. When it came through the mesosphere and got heated, it made it all smooth like that. And you can tell by looking at the outside of this. This isn't normal Earth rock, okay? I've seen enough of it to know. And, you know, people are going to say, well, they don't believe or whatever. And that's fine. They have the right not to believe. I said to view my videos as what if. Okay, what if? What if I am correct? Okay, and I'll tell you why. What if I am correct? This right here, for some reason, it didn't burn up like it should. And I've been trying to explain to people there's something wrong with the mesosphere when you get too much of some of the elements in it. Now, it's still a little bit toasty brown there, but why this may not have any fusion crust and why some of them may not have fusion crust is because of what they're composed of, where they were, what they were exposed to in space. You don't know what every rock in space is exposed to, okay? You don't. If this converted to something else in space, a harder substance with a higher melting point, this is what you're going to get, okay? And yes, it will still look like a rock. But this supposedly gray, blue, or white rock, if we take the magnet, okay, but its magnetism is weak. And this is the point that I'm trying to get across to everybody. And you can see what I'm doing and you can see what I'm showing. Yes, it does look like a rock. And it would resemble slate, but it's magnetic. And even the jagged edges here, even this is smooth. This should be sharp as all hell if it was a regular rock. But the smoothness and the light brown color, this could have been all the hotter that this thing got. And it has to do with melting points. If this is composed of something and it doesn't melt, like say its melting point, let's say its melting point is 10,000 degrees, and the mesosphere only heats up to 3,000 to 4,000 degrees. You've got that difference. So what is it going to do to a melting point at 10,000 degrees? It's going to heat and heat and heat and heat and heat. And it will become red hot and never reach that melting point by the time it leaves the mesosphere. Now, I just think that maybe somebody knows this stuff and they just don't want people to know. But whatever this is, and I have no idea what it is, but whatever this is, if a huge one like this, a whole asteroid or a big meteoroid comes in the mesosphere, chances are it's not going to reach its melting point. And it's going to come through, it's going to be big, it's going to be heavy, and it's just going to destroy everything in its path. But like I said, what if? Okay? I'm not saying I'm correct, but I'm saying going by everybody else's information out there and then looking at what I'm looking. Okay? This is what I'm finding. And I'm just being honest with people and I'm laying it out there. And like I said, there are people that are going to call me dumb and stupid. Because if nobody's ever found anything like that, nobody's ever worked with it or come up with any theories, scenarios, or ideas, then it's going to sound stupid. It's going to sound dumb. It's going to make a person look retarded the first time that they bring it up. But like I said, I believe by looking at the Barrenger crater that a lot of those rocks around it are from that meteor. But that's me. Because if in fact what I'm saying is true, because the magnetism can be weak or non-existent in rocks, you are trained to look for metal, use a magnet. If it looks like a rock, well, then it's just a rock. Well, it's the information and everything that I'm getting and finding isn't pointing to that. And I'm sorry if people are upset and they disagree. One way to know for sure would be to actually test some of those rocks around the crater. But it's a money thing. People only test what they want to test. Okay? They only want to test what they want to test because it has to do with expenses and everything. And the person that I seen why I had gotten so upset is because they picked up my rock without even a magnifying glass. Melinda Hudson, supposed to be the thing at the Portland State University. She picks up, doesn't even have a magnifying glass to look, and picks it up. Oh, well, this doesn't have the right texture to be a meteorite. Okay, so now we're supposed to be feeling rocks, and if they don't feel right, then it isn't what it is. That makes absolutely no sense at all. And if you can understand that when you take a rock in and somebody does that, or you send them pictures and they say, well, because it doesn't look like it. Okay, well, if we're going by feel and I send you a picture, you can feel the picture and say, well, it doesn't feel like a meteorite. This is what I'm talking about, and everything contradicts themselves. And when people are doing this, if you're smart enough to know better that you can't tell what the magnetism is by looking at a picture, you can't tell how heavy it is by looking at a picture, you can't tell the composition of the inside by looking at a picture. If you could do that, then why do they send the rocks in to get them cut open, put under a microscope, and do tests on them if you can tell what it is by looking at a picture? Okay? And now if anybody understands where I'm coming from, some people will understand it. Okay? And if it's just one person's thought, okay, it's got to be like this, it's got to be like that, it's got to be like this, it's got to be like that. Okay. What if they're not right or they're incorrect in their thinking? You just lost out because that person said, well, it doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, it doesn't feel like it. You know, and this is, I had enough. I've had enough of this stuff, this BS that they're trying to sell a lot of people out there. Because what I'm finding, and I say what I'm finding, and you don't have to believe, but what I'm finding, it doesn't coincide and it doesn't line up with what a lot of people are being taught. But nobody wants to question it. Nobody wants to check anybody's research. Nobody wants to question anything. You're happy with what you hear. Okay? You're happy with, hey, it's got to have fusion crust, has fusion crust, meteorite. If it doesn't have fusion crust, it isn't a meteorite. But that's not true. You look on other websites. Not all rocks that fall in certain areas, depending upon where they fall, have fusion crust. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry people get upset, but like I said, there's a lot of things here that just aren't adding up. And good old Mr. Harvey H. Deininger, if he had known or found a lot of what I'm finding, he would have told people the same thing. He tried to tell people that meteorites are more common than what people think they are. Yes, they probably are more common than what people think they are because everybody's just looking for meteorites one way. What if a lot of meteorites out there have no magnetism to whatsoever? They didn't get magnetism. There isn't anything in it to make it magnetic. Does anybody ever think about that? Seriously. Anybody ever really think about that? Anyways, I'm going to let it go. I'm trying to be a little bit more reasonable. Next video isn't going to have anything to do with rocks. It's going to have to do with missing planes and why I think they went missing. And I think you'll find it very interesting because what if this happened is totally different. It's way off of what other people are thinking. And it could be a problem because, like I said, nobody gets up and investigates. And nobody checks other people's works. And we'll call that good.